Welcome. This is Jeremiah, and we are going to continue with Faith 2021. That's Faith 2021. So get ready. Jeremiah is on fire. He is burning with the truth, and it is on his lips. And I am going to share with you some of the key principles of Christian faith. This is New Covenant. This is Jeremiah. And as a matter of fact, I'll share with you quickly. We have a few things going on at this juncture in the summer of 2021. And we have faith over here, which is going to be, there's going to be at least 50 videos. I don't know, but there's going to be a lot of videos. I already have a lot of videos out, a couple of hundred. But for those of you who have a lot of time, some of you are not well, some of you are incarcerated, or some of you are locked up and so forth, and I'm here for you. There are a lot of people who belong to Jesus Christ are in jail. Some of them are in hospitals. Some of the people who love Jesus are in hospitals. Some of the people who love the Lord are under Sharia law and so forth. In communist countries, under Buddhist influences and problems that come with being surrounded by people who will not love and serve the Lord Jesus Christ, and it's going to create some problems, and the Lord's going to bless you because of that. He's going to watch you and see that you stand up. We just went through Psalm number 4, which is critical to your Bible. To stand in awe, to sit and wait in faith for the Lord to show up for your circumstances. That's called faith number 1. Faith number 2 is the blessed hope. And number 3 is faith, hope, and love. And I've already went over that. I'm going to spend a little more time on that because we're done with talking about atheists and agnostics. I won't spend that much more time talking about people who do not have the faith, who do not want to believe in reality. They don't want to take the opinion that love is good, because that's essentially what Christianity is. Adam and Eve decided that loving God and loving the truth was not a good idea. And that's the problem they had. The problem they had was that they believed a lie. And when you believe a lie, you're damned. There are gang members who believe that shooting people is okay in Chicago, just north of us here. They actually believe, they have the opinion that drinking cheap alcohol and having babies out of wedlock, and some of them beat on women, and whatever these gang members do, they have the opinion that what they're doing is beneficial for them, and it's just the way things should go. And we offer here in Christendom, we offer love your neighbor, turn the other cheek, and love your enemies. We don't have any enemies, essentially. That's what that means. If you love your enemies, you don't have an enemy. That's the point. You don't have one. Now they're your enemy. They declare themselves your enemy. However, they cannot be your enemy because you own your soul. Once you own your soul, you don't have any more enemies because you own the eternal portion, which is you. You own your 4 ounces. Nobody owns their body forever anyway. And the born-again man understands that his body is toast. Paul calls the body a vile body. So that's what it is. It's just going to rot, and it's going to say goodnight. And for people who try to squeeze and hold on to it, that means that they have a mental problem. They're mentally retarded. When you try to hold on to something that's going away, all it can do is bring frustration to you. That's all you're going to do. And that's what Babylon does. Babylon rejoices in the body and enjoying the body and enjoying your life at the expense of who cares, doesn't matter. That's Babylon. They're not going to take the opinion that loving people, no matter what happens, is good. The only way they're going to love people is if they have some affection for them and there are some benefits involved. That's the only way they're going to do it. Christianity proposes that we go back to the Garden of Eden and we do exactly what God says, and we take back what we had, which was loving God, listening to what he had to say, and not more or less breaking God's heart by not doing what he tells you to do. Because when you don't do what you're supposed to do, all you do is frustrate the people who are in charge. Because you're supposed to do what you were told to do. It's just that simple. Now, we're going to get into, we talked about what is faith. This is Faith 2021. This is Jeremiah. We greet you in the only name given amongst men by which you must be saved. So that's what I'm going to do here. We're going to let my first board go. I have a board here that talks about the basics of faith and what faith means. It means pistis. It means a firm confidence. It means that you're expecting something in general that you don't have any control over. You can't provide what it is you're expecting. And we went over that. We talked about the atheists, the agnostics who don't believe that the gospel's any good, they don't believe that God's good, or they don't believe in God at all, and so forth. They don't want to believe, they ignore any proposition to giving God glory for his creation, for creating them, for holding all things together in his mind. God holds everything together in his mind. Nothing is held together by itself. This is another mistake they made in my college and high school experience pertaining to science. I have mentioned that in my science lessons. And I'll mention it again, that God holds everything together. It's not held together by itself. The camera I use, the house I'm in, the place I'm in, it's not held together by itself. God is actually holding it together in his mind. A lot of people don't know that, because they don't know science that well. They don't know atoms. They don't know valence electrons, nucleus, and so forth. They don't think about that because they don't have to, per se, and it's called bad idea. You should think about everything about God, and that's one thing about this ministry. Let me share something with you before we get back into faith. And we're talking about faith almost every time anyway, when we talk about anything. But the point is that God, he holds everything together, and when you walk around here and you think that things are out of his control or that he doesn't exist, then that means that you're mentally retarded. That means that that your mind is not working at a sea level. You're walking around and you don't understand what your world is at all. You don't understand what's going on. It doesn't mean you're a wicked person per se, or that you're worthless. That's not my point. My point is that God made your brain for you to hold on to all truths. Just like in the Declaration of Independence, it says, we the people of the United States, that we believe we hold all truths. That we hold these truths. You've got to hold the truth. You can't, it can't go right by you, wang. That's how people get in car accidents and run red lights. You need to obey whatever the truth is. You have to. And if you start ignoring the truth, just like driving an automobile, if you think you can ignore some of the truths and some of the facts of driving an automobile, it can be very hazardous for you and your relatives. I had a lady one day, and it was pouring rain in Los Angeles one day, and I made a quick left turn, and I felt bad because I gave the impression that it was okay to make a left turn. But the lady behind me, she just followed me. And I don't think she's from Los Angeles at all. She doesn't know, and she may be from another country, I don't know. She gave me the impression when she made the turn that she was just going with the flow. She was just what we call dumb sheep. It was raining really heavy, and I'm not bragging, I'm a good driver. Everybody makes mistakes in driving, but I used to be a professional driver. Here's my point. My point is that the lady followed me, and she got hit, and there was another car coming 40 miles an hour. And she was driving a small vehicle. There was a policeman right there, so I just left. The policeman was right there. And I don't want to see people hurt anyway. I don't like seeing people hurt. It doesn't do anything for me at all. can't even watch war movies sometimes, but my point is this, is that the lady followed me. But she doesn't know somehow she got a driver's license, but she doesn't know the manual. And she doesn't know the ins and outs and nuances of driving in a very fast-paced city. It's a very dangerous driving experience in the city of Los Angeles. It's very dangerous. Because people are in a hurry, and people are late, and people are going to bend the rules, and you better know the nuances of driving a vehicle. But that lady just followed me. You see, you can't go by your instincts and what you feel and what you need to find the truth, and that's why I really enjoy this ministry, this giving out of the truth. That, the founders of this country said, we hold these truths. And see, you've got to hold the truth, otherwise it doesn't mean anything. You just can't have somebody tell you how to drive a car and you forget, and get the keys and take off. You can't do that. You got to hold the rules in your head. And that's what Bible study is for. And this is a Bible teaching ministry that, because of COVID and other factors, that has turned into a home Bible study, Bible teaching environment. And I chose this for a couple of reasons. But the point is that I would prefer to have a pulpit, but because of the COVID, and then they shut down the church for a while, and they said, no, you have to wear a mask when you do this, and you better do this. So I decided that since I started out with a home Bible study with some brethren in California, that I would continue with the format. But we need to know the truth. It's not a minor thing to learn the truth. It's not, and you need to know the entire spectrum for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons you want to know the entire spectrum of truth is because it's going to be good for you, and it's going to satisfy your soul. It's going to rejoice your heart. The truth rejoices your heart. The TV people say a new home rejoices their heart. No, that's not what God is. No, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and give to God the things that are God's. God doesn't want your house. He already has a house. You're supposed to give God your heart. Give to Caesar your home. Give the TV preacher your home. He's going to love it and kiss it. My point is that we're here to love the truth, and the truth is what's going to excite us. That's why the book of Revelation says what? Blessed is he who reads and keeps these prophecies. Well, what does that mean? It means you're going to be happy because you're learning. That's what it means. Man was meant to learn. Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden and they became dum-dums. And Jesus comes back and says, I'm going to give you the truth again. And you should be excited. That you're leaving vanity and emptiness and lies and confusion. The TV gives out more lies than you can shake a stick at. As a matter of fact, the best movie title that I can think of for television in America for 100 years is Liar, Liar, Liar. The idea that Honest Abe got shot is extremely significant, because when Honest Abe got shot, this country kind of got shot too. It wasn't an insignificant thing that happened to America when Abraham Lincoln was shot in the head, because America was shot in the head. That's what happened. The Pope wrote a letter to Lincoln threatening him. The South wrote a letter to Lincoln threatening him. So he was threatened on every side. Rednecks threatened him. Everybody threatened him. John Wilkes Booth shot him, and he was a Shakespearean actor. My point is that when you're honest, look what happens to you. Look what happened to Honest Abe. Oh, the South hated him with Jefferson Davis, and they had excuses for having a flag and beating on Africans and abusing people's workforce and their abilities. and slavery and building an empire on people's sweat that's not theirs, and the Pope said he liked Jefferson Davis, he didn't like Lincoln, and on and on and on it goes. When you become an honest person, everybody who's fake and who's greedy, they're not going to like you. That's what happened. That's what happens. The North American representative of the Quakers and the people who love people and aren't greedy, they go ahead and shoot him in the head. That's the point. Because the South didn't like you, and they're supposed to be Americans, and they're psychotic individuals, mentally retarded. And then the Pope writes a letter to threatening Lincoln that he wants them to take a loan out from the Vatican so he can charge interest and make money, and it's all about money and hate, and he's standing up for the truth, and all they are over the Vatican is a bunch of liars. So the point is that America got shot in the head when Lincoln got shot in the head. Lincoln wasn't the only one that got shot in the head. We got shot in the head. That's my point. Because we need truth. We need people who speak the truth. Otherwise, we're going down the toilet. That's just the way it goes. You need the truth. We all need the truth here. We're going to get into faith right now. I'm going to recap. We talked about atheists, agnostics, people who just don't believe and they don't want to embrace God, and they don't think they don't think that God exists. And there are people who say that they resist God. They are anti-Christ. They are anti anything that God stands for, like the Ten Commandments. Some people aren't just saying they're antichrist, or rather that they don't believe in God. They're saying that they don't believe in what God proposes. God has the opinion. He's taken the opinion that love is good. That's why God embraces love, because that's his opinion. And those of us who gravitate towards that opinion, we can be adopted. The gang member in Chicago, the person who rips up people off of the banking institutions in London, the International Monetary Fund, the Pope people who start wars and help Hitler and give Hitler gas money, they don't love love. They put skulls on their heads, and they're wicked people. That's all they are. And God can adopt them. We're in the process of developing a mind whereby that we're going to develop character that is going to copy God above, so that we can be adopted. Learning the truth is getting your adoption papers off the ground. That's what it is. And in any stage of the game here, as they say, or any part of this marathon that you decide that you don't like the truth anymore, is grounds for disqualification for your adoption papers. That's to put it in a nutshell. Because that means you've turned against the very thing that the person that you declare to be seeking adoption with, to fellowship and tabernacle, in commune, you have just disqualified yourself, because you just contradicted the very thing that's very dear to the one that you want to adopt you. Many people declare that they seek adoption and they want to go to heaven. But if they begin to practice the things that disqualify them, which is breaking the Ten Commandments and so forth, they're not going to get adopted. They're just on TV or wherever they are, they're just blowing smoke. I mean, we talk about this a lot here. I just made a bunch of series of videos called The Greedy Bunch. If you think you can break the 10th commandment and be greedy, the Bible tells you that you're dumb as a box of rocks, that you can't be greedy and know God at all. God is very, very, very giving to people who don't really give him much in return. I'm an excellent example of that. Well, what does God get out of me? What does he need from me? Nothing. Now, he evidently, he somehow enjoys me loving him and serving him, but the point is that, which is amazing in itself, but I personally don't know what he really, really needs me for. My dad used to look at me like that. I used to give my dad a hard time every now and then. As a normal child, I would look at him and I don't want And my dad would look at me like, I really don't need you. And he didn't need me. In a very practical sense, for everyday living, he had no need for me. That's the point. Now, there's a love need, but if you put that aside for a moment, what was there a need for? There was no need. God needs me for nothing. Jesus Christ, the master of the church, the great shepherd, the good shepherd who knows his sheep, and his sheep know him. What does he need Jeremiah for? Squat. Yet, what does he do? He walks on water and comes to me. Jesus Christ was walking on water, and he came to the disciples. He could have walked on water and went anywhere. He could have went to the Grand Canyon and go, oh, how beautiful, and sit there for 3 weeks and just rejoice. He could have went and got a cat or a dog and pet the dog for 3 months and left the disciples out there in the water, which was what a lot of people do. A lot of nature freaks, animal freaks. They forget about people and they start worshiping the Mount Rushmore or the Rock of Gibraltar, or the caverns of Arizona, or something. They just start staring at it and freaking out and hugging beetles, and around the corner they worship Mary on the wall, and then they have statues that they kneel down, they're dead, and they kiss the statue and stuff. Listen, there are a lot of freaky things going on in our world, and the bottom line, isn't it wonderful to be a Protestant Quaker here in the United States, whereby that you don't enter into a lot of mental retardation, because the Christian faith takes you out of retardation. It puts you into intelligence. And the more truth you get, the more intelligence you get. I was raised in a family here in the United States. They were basically Quaker, Protestant, North American Christian family, and I rejoice in that, because when I grew up, I began to see that around the world, that 90% of the population, if not 95 to 98% of the population of the world, they're not civilized. There are pygmies in Brazil who chop off their neighbor's head. They shrink the head. They put the head on their belt, and they call it a badge of honor. You can go to Central America where they abduct children and they torture and mutilate children. And my point is that the world is not what I thought it was, and that I was in a much better situation than I realized. Communists will machine gun you down because you have 50 extra bucks in your house or something. They have their own criteria. And the Muslims say, you don't like Allah, good luck. I'm going to saw your head off or something. That's your real world. Okay? And then you begin to realize that the North American Christian, who is an American who has two normal parents, he's in the garden spot. That's my point. Because you have the truth. You can go to India, they make a young couple circle a snake pit of cobras. If either one of them gets bit by the snake, that's just the way it goes. We don't have that kind of mental retardation here. My point is that having Quaker-type parents and a King James Bible is what the young people call the bomb. This is an adult ministry. We talk about the real world here. I say it over and over again. It's in my introductions here. I have about 12 introductions now where I tell everybody that every now and then Jeremiah is going to talk about the real world, and we're going to talk about why we enjoy our Christian faith. The lesson today is going to be probably video 7, Faith 2021, part 7. And I'm going to get into faith, and I'm talking right now about the entire Christian faith and why we're so happy to be a part of it, and to have parents who are basically, my parents were kind of off and on a little bit, just like any other parents. But the point is that they were fundamentally church-going people, and they taught us the Ten Commandments and so forth, and that separates us from the world. We are now the esoteric few. And there's a lot to rejoice in under those conditions. A lot. to be a part of the Christian faith and the red letter edition here of the King James Bible here, and to have people who live around you who also read that red letter edition, that's what's called good and blessed, and it is being blessed to a certain extent. We have to put that in the right context. My point is that your mind is what's really blessed, and your soul is rejoicing, and your heart is rejoicing. That's the bliss that you own. God puts every Christian into a lower estate in the Christian faith. That's quite obvious for a fourth grader that's paying attention to Bible study. Why 90% of the people who are around these days, and maybe even in the past, don't really understand Christianity, even though the book is right there in their face, and they don't give it a fourth grade application of academics. That's not really my business. That's my point. I bet somebody asked me the other day about that. Some of the young youth members, some of the youth are interested in becoming Christians over there at the gym and stuff. I told them that that's not really my business. How many Frenchmen can't be wrong? I'm not into that. I'm responsible for my own brain. That's the bottom line. If I have a Bible here, and some of my predecessors, and some of the people like William Penn, and the guy who started the Amish people, the Swedish guy, they are the foundation of this country, because they're the ones who insist on everybody knowing the Ten Commandments and teaching them in their homes. What that does is it creates a safer environment, and it creates a better place to live, and it creates better husbands and wives and children, and that's why they say God bless America. Not because the people in the South are beating Africans and Mexicans to death or something along those lines, or of course the Mexicans were attacking the Texans and so forth too. All humans are murderers. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what race you are. You can find murderers in any race. There's no such thing as race. That's unscientific, in case you didn't know that. Now let's get going. Let's get into faith germane here. What are you talking about, Jeremiah? We talked about pistis. And then we talked about apistis. We talked about believing it and people who don't believe. I already went through the agnostic people and so forth. We're going to let that go. The people who don't believe, people who say there is no God. That's what agnostic and atheistic means. It means no God, and it means I don't know. Which one? Which category? Who cares? It's people who don't know God. It's people who don't want to love God in general. And a lot of people read. And let's stop right here. In this Christian faith, and in Jeremiah's ministry here, I have focused on some of the main reasons why we're excited to be Christians. I didn't go over every one of them. There's not enough time. But my point is this. I've gone over enough of some of the wonderful, amazing, marvelous reasons why we are happy to be Christians. And I've gone over them. And a lot of people who are being confronted with their evil minds, they have to make a decision, see, and some of them are embracing murder, which is the Quran. It is a hitman manual, slaughter, torture, human book. My point is that they're going to have to make a decision because they know deep down inside that they belong to the wrong group. They belong to a group of people who are deceived. If you join a gang because the gang was in your neighborhood, and then you begin to realize that they're murdering people and you want out, that's called using your brain. Because you realize the sooner you get away from murderers, the better off it's going to be for you on every level. And then when you saw the church down the street, there's a cross on there. People who are walking out of there smiling, they have Bibles in their hands, they're hugging each other, and then you see that, and then you decide for yourself whether you want to reject becoming a part of the faith, or you don't want, or you do. You do or you don't. It's up to you. You see people have gone through my videos. Some Muslims and people who belong to drug cartels who have chopped off people's heads and who have seen some of their family members chop off people's heads and send it to their relatives because they were confronting the Colombian cartel. They boots on the ground, people can see the difference between us and them. They can see that this is a group of people who are devoted to caring for people, even people who are not good people. They can see that. And that we don't have any enemies. So they have to think in their minds, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to continue to run with the people who I really don't like that much? We become friends and family, and what am I going to do? Well, it's decision time. For a lot of people who see my videos and people who I meet in the streets and give Bibles to and stuff, it's decision time for them when I see them. I am the big final arbiter, and so are you, and it's an extremely important position to hold to be an evangelist, because you're giving people the ultimatum, and let's stop right here. You're giving people the ultimatum, and it's either join or not join the faith. And I want to talk about the faith from that perspective right now, from evangelism. Before I get to, we're going to get to two different kinds of faith here in a moment here. Two kinds of faith. And I'm going to go over all of these boards, all of my ideas and stuff. We're going to go over it 2 or 3 times in this ministry pertaining to faith. I will not go over probably agnostics and atheists, people who don't believe. I probably won't go over that anymore. I probably won't go talk about some of the terms that I've gone over and the context I use them with. So, but you shouldn't get confused, and this should be a wonderful time of learning and going over the living bread and rejoicing in receiving the living bread, eating the living bread, and having the substance that makes you live forever. Because you need living bread to live forever. That's why the Master said you have to eat this bread. You have to eat the truth if you want to live forever. It's mandatory, especially when in reference to you having an opportunity to eat the bread. It's kind of like having a job available. If you're a coal miner and there's only one job in town, and there's an opening, you better take the job. Otherwise, you're going to sit around and you're going to starve. The opportunity doesn't knock 1,000 times. You have to do what they say in America here, jump on it. And the early bird gets the worm. So it's up to you. There's a race going on, and you're going to have to run the race, as Paul said, like somebody who wants to win the race. It's my job to push you to be a marathon runner who wants to who wants to win the race. You're going to have to run the race like you want to win it. I just read that, and that's my job here, is to push you and exhort you to get into the race, and before we get to two kinds of faith, let me change the subject quickly here. We'll get back to some of this other stuff later. 2 kinds of faith. This is a Christian faith whereby the people have an opportunity to select. The Bible uses the word opinion. See, you can like what you want to like. That's what this is all about. When I first started getting into church heavy, because I was off and on in the church with my dad, but some of you have had relatives who are involved in the church. Here's my point. Is that when it was time to get heavy into it, I began to see that this was actually an opinion. God was not twisting my arm to do anything. I used to kind of think that Christianity was where God was kind of a big hammer, had a hammer in his hand. But when I started going into this non-denominational Calvary circuit in California, I began to realize that God doesn't have a hammer. He pushes you and then watches you. That's what he does. So you can form your own opinion. Christianity is a faith. It is a belief system that has an opinion. And the opinion is that love is good. That's the opinion that you're going to either like or dislike. The people at the church were loving each other, and everybody who was there had to like that opinion. Because it's God's opinion. He decided to be a lover and a carer. That's what he decided to do. And that's what you're going to have to decide to do. And as an evangelist, I just pass out Bibles and gospel tracts and things, and I tell people that basically, why don't you take this opinion? It's called the Christian faith, and it is a belief that love is the way to go. And you don't have to embrace that belief. You can embrace a lie, which is that love is no good. That being superficial is the only way to go. Well, then that's the life that you're going to live. You're going to experience, just like the rodent in the rodent cage, you're going to keep spinning the wheel thinking you're going somewhere, but you're not going anywhere. You're going to think that you're experiencing real love when you're not experiencing real love. You're experiencing what the dictionary calls the A-life, artificial life. And you told yourself, the devil told you, and some of your friends told you that you're living the good life. The plastic life, the materialistic life, and you're listening to it and you're believing it, and you're believing a lie, because that's not the life. Jesus said, I am the life. That devoting yourself to giving your heart to God and loving people and telling the truth, that's the avenue to joy. That, you forget about happiness for a couple of seconds. Ameliorations, your dictionary calls it, slight augmentations of your feelings and affections. No, you're getting the deep agape, real love experience. You're getting God's love incarnate, and that's the big enchilada here. The greatest of these is love. There's faith, hope, and love. The greatest is love. It's not faith. Faith goes away. It's critical for now. It is. You have to have faith now. You're in a human body. You have to have faith. If you're in heaven, you don't need faith. That's the point. Now, let's change the subject and get back to the lesson germane. I want to go to part, this will be video probably number 7, and we're going to get into 2 kinds of faith. Jeremiah, what are 2 kinds of faith? Well, we already talked about faith, hope, and love as 3 components to the Christian belief system. We Christians believe in basically 3 things. There are 3 arenas that we live in. Today's confidence, today's experience, what I'm experiencing right now, my daily walk, and the rapture. Then there is love, how it applies to both of these realms. How does love apply to, you're walking around here in your body, and how does love apply to you being in the rapture? How does it apply? I already went through some of that. Those are the 3 components. Now I want to talk about 2 kinds of faith right now, and this is a pretty deep subject. However, I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. I want you to pay attention as Jeremiah gets ready for video number 8 here. We're already ready for 8 just about, and I'm going to let atheism, agnostics, some terms about what is faith, and the 3 that abide. We're going to let that go for now. Those are 3 of the main subjects that I talked about in the first 6 videos, okay? Some of the basics of faith, terms like believe, expect, trust, we talked about some of that. And then we talked about people who don't believe. Then we talked about the 3 that abide. Paul says these 3 abide. And I also pointed out that these 3 don't always abide. In other words, some people only have confidence in God, which is faith number 1. That's the number 1 component of faith, hope, and love. That's your daily walk in your body. That's faith component number 1. Number 2 is the hope. And number 3 is the love that should abide in both confidence areas. The confidence area you have when you're walking, and the confidence area about when you're going to be in the rapture and anticipating being with the one you love. So that's love, how it applies to both of those arenas, because love is applicable to both arenas. Love is applicable to the first arena, you're confident as you're walking around, and it's applicable to the arena that you think about being with the Lord. Okay? I already went through that, and we're going to let that go for now. I'll go back to that later because it's a deep subject. And you can take your time and let your mind relax. Some of you need to take some pen and paper out. The Jeremiah's University is a deep university here. This is not, we left kindergarten a long, long time ago. And for those of you who've had difficulty in the education system here in the United States or elsewhere, I encourage you to don't be a quitter. Some of you have just quit. I've seen relatives quit because they had difficulty in school, and they shouldn't have quit. Because everybody has difficulties in education. The only person that doesn't have difficulty in education is the Master Jesus Christ. He has no difficulties. But everybody else, I've had difficulty. I rubbed elbows with a wonderful pastor who had 2 or 3 PhDs. But I saw him have difficulties. Not very many, but he's just a human. No matter how bright he was in school, no matter how many A's he got. That's my point. Some of you are quitting, and you shouldn't do that. I just went through that with a gentleman here recently, where I exhorted him and pushed him to get some elementary school books and whatever it takes. Get off your can and quit putting your energy into entertainment, because that's what people generally do. Is they give up on academics, be it secular or biblical, and they get into video games because they deem themselves not someone who is geared towards academics. And that's from the devil, because you need to achieve academics as much as you can with the time you have for the purposes of comprehending the commandments of Jesus Christ. You need to memorize them, because that's your living bread. That's your rocket fuel out of here. That is your evidence for the Lord calling your name. The Lord's not going to call your name in the resurrection, in the rapture, if you did not listen to what he had to say and pay attention academically. With whatever level of comprehension you have, you better be about the business of using it. I'm telling you right now. And I just emphasized that with some of my relatives here recently who have been talking a lot of mumbo jumbo to me, and I tell them, I want to hear some scriptures. I want to hear some commands. I'm going to stop right here. We're going to go back to 2 kinds of faith, and this is another subject. Remember, this will be subject probably number 3. I will be going back to pistis and terms that mean faith. I'm going back to that again quite a bit. So we're not done with talking about what the word pistis means and what firm confidence means. We're going to talk about that over and over again because that's very important to go over it again and over it again. What is confidence? What is expecting something that you don't know how it's going to get there and when, or I'm going to go into that because that's what the word faith means. And then I'm going to talk to it how it applies to Christianity, okay? And we're also definitely not done with these 3 abide. Number 1 is your faith walk while you're walking around your body. Number 2 is your confidence that you're going to be with the one you love. And number 3 is, how does love apply to the first 2? When Paul said these 3 abide, faith, hope, and love, what he's saying is that love is the greatest of the first 2. Because your confidence in your daily walk and your confidence in Jesus Christ coming, both of those confidences are dead when you're in heaven. You don't need them anymore. You don't need either one of those realms anymore. You don't need to be confident walking around in your body anymore for God to do this or to help you or anything. You also don't need to be confident that the one you love is going to be with you, because you're going to be with the one you love. That's the point. Jeremiah's done right now. We're going to go to faith, 2021, video probably number 8. I might change it, but it should be video number 8, and we're going to get into 2 kinds of faith. What do you mean by 2 kinds of faith? I want to talk about that, okay? That's it. Jeremiah signing off for video number 7, Faith 2021. And what are we doing around here, Jeremiah, these days in 2021 on these plateaus called the earth? We are on a plateau, and we are doing what? We're listening to the voice of the Lord. And when we don't listen, we get back to it again. If we stumble, bumble, fumble, we pick up the ball again. We're listening for the rapture right now, big time. We're listening for the voice of Gabriel, the archangel, right now, big time. America now has TV shows where humans are eating humans and stuff and pretending, okay, if that ain't the end, I don't know what is. It's pretty sick. I mean, come on. A place that used to have Abraham Lincoln and John Adams and Martin Luther King, or some of the people who are considered decent people, they're gone, long gone, aren't they? Yeah, they sure are. Shalom and Maranatha.